No, we're already very great.
Well now, don't you all look disappointed. That was to be expected, of course. But don't let that stop you. I shall be terribly disappointed.
Since both parties are firstly in...
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Mr. Lyney. You ran to and remained hidden within the magic box in the audience stands.
Yes, that's...
In that case...
Why, of course I do. Allow me to take the first shot and break this case wide open. Mr. Lyney is clearly... There is no way...
That is simply your...
Oh.
The roaring countdown of the crowd, of course. That...
And you didn't hear any...
No, nothing.
I see. But when the count
Huh?
Hey, hang on!
Yeah, I'm sure he could have heard a noise that loud from inside the box.
I was right by the box, and I definitely heard the...
Look at those scales. Could those be...
Well then, of course, I have armed myself to do far more than smash your alibi. Confidence cannot go unfounded, and Tell me, aren't you and Lynette actually from the House of the Hearth?
The House of the Hearth?
No wonder they did something like this.
So the serial disappearances were the Fatui's doing. Now it all makes sense.
I've got a feeling that what happened on stage probably wasn't just an accident.
That's irrelevant. Our identities have nothing to do with what happened.
Indeed. Then perhaps you could tell us everything that happened during that 1 minute. Your first priority is to prove yourself innocent after all. I'm sure there is little that needs to be kept secret now. Unless your script already has holes in it. The Outlander is speechless. My, oh my, don't they look flabbergasted? Now comes the infighting and discord, I suppose. This was almost too easy. Good thing I made all those preparations. Seems the all-nighter I pulled last night is really paying off.
Hey, Lyney, why didn't you tell us this before?
Order! Order! Mr. Lyney, allow me to re-establish the facts. Lady Farina has raised 2 points. First, when the thud was heard in the Opera House, you were neither in the box nor the tunnel. Are these claims true? Please answer my question, Mr. Lyney.
I'm sorry. Yes, they're true, Your Honor.
I knew it!
Well, that's it. We might as well move on to the sentencing already.
What should we do now?
Granted. In that case, what is your request?
Is that really necessary?
The defendant deceived their own attorneys. What is their—
Order! Order, I say! Your request is reasonable, and we shall adjourn. This trial...
So you would stick to Mr. Lyney's defense even in that case, my dear audience, let's allow the joy...
Well, this is awkward. I didn't think the Hydro Archon would dig all that up. I'm sorry, Traveler and Paimon.
Yeah.
Paimon doesn't know where to start. We trusted you two. We based our entire reasoning on the assumption that you weren't bad guy. Not to set the wrong tone or anything, but Paimon's really mad.
I'm very sorry. I know you're angry, and reasonably so, but please, let me explain. I know you've clashed with the Fatui several times before. I wouldn't be surprised if just hearing the word is enough to make, but our organization is very, very large, and the Harbingers have very different personalities and goals.
Right now, we want to save people. As many as we can.
That's right. I'm sure we're on the same page when it comes to this nation and the disaster that its people might face. I knew if it weren't for our respective identities, we could become good friends. That's why I didn't wish to flat out lie to you, but chose to hide. The truth is very important, but being completely transparent about everything would see us spending more effort than we need. Right. So, you be the judge. Heck, if I were you, I fear that I'd even struggle to trust me at this point. You met a Fatus who works as a magician, a trickster by trade. All by coincidence, too. But still, I'm asking you to trust me.
Sorry. Please forgive us.
Well, you both say that, but... Right, let's hear your answer first, and no lies now!
Of course. I'll answer any question you ask. We've been trying to find out how the Oratrice operates. We want to know why, during our investigations, we learned that the machine's core is beneath it. From that moment on, Lynette and I have been designing this box swap trick, with the objective of getting close to the core.
Is that why you needed a whole minute?
That's right. In truth, the audience would take about 75 seconds to count down from 60, while I would only need 15 to get to the opposite box. So, after jumping into the tunnel, I accessed the Opera House basement via the vent, and went to investigate the room in which—
That air vent was created during the construction of the tunnel specifically to
Well, nothing. As soon as I reached that, which should have been impossible, of course, that voice seemed to recognize me and tried to speak to me. I chose— On the way back, I saw the broken vase and the clothes on the ground. After that, the homicide occurred just as—
Well, that explains why you didn't hear the thud.
Because of that prophecy I told you about of—
That's the only way we can save everyone.
So, there you have it. The whole truth. It was never my wish to proceed, but like I said earlier, you can—
Well, Traveler, you decide. Paimon will follow your lead however you choose.
Okay.
Thanks for giving us a chance.
The current problem is that the scales... If we want to refute the Hydro Archon... Huh?
Both parties have returned to their positions. Let us continue the trial. When last we left off, Mr. Lyney acknowledged the new evidence presented by Lady Farina as fact. Therefore, Lady Farina may continue stating her reconstruction of the events.
That took long enough. Now then, if everyone would lend me their attention. At this stage, let's revisit that scene from Lyney's perspective. As the countdown began, he entered the tunnel. When the flatbed trolley passed, he opened the box and got into an altercation with Halsey, which caused the loud thud. He did not realize that this sound could be heard by everyone in the opera house, which is why he claimed earlier that he could not hear the sound. Finally, he used the vase to knock her out, before making her change clothes to prevent others from recognizing her. At this time, Cowell arrived in the tunnel, having heard that strange noise, and caught Lyney red-handed. So Lyney proceeded to knock him out too before stuffing him into that box. Afterward, Lyney passed the unconscious Halsey to his accomplice through the magic box in the audience stands, before operating the devices such that Cowell's death would be ruled an accident. And there you have it. That's the truth behind what happened.
Does the defendant's side have any objections to Lady Farina's description of the event?
The key to refuting Lady Farina is the order of events, what Lyney experienced, and what he's... Seems this won't produce a particularly effective rebuttal. Seems this... Seems this... According to Lyney, he left via the vent after entering the tunnel. He couldn't have had that altercation with Hulk. Lyney went to the room that contains the Oratrice's core. This is... Lyney did not take part in the under...
Attention! Ace Detective Paimon has something to say! When the countdown started, Lyney did indeed go into the tunnel. But he immediately used a vent to access the Opera House basement, which is where the underground core of the Oratrice is stored. Once he reached that area, he heard a voice in what should have been an empty room. Since he felt something was amiss, he returned immediately. The crime scene had already developed by the time he reached the tunnel again, and in order to complete the magic trick, he did not remain there for any length of time. Finally, he reached the surface, and that was when the accident happened from his point of view. Therefore, he's innocent! Paimon did it! Paimon actually managed to say all that! Wasn't it awesome?
In other words, you believe that he knew nothing of the incident?
That's right!
My reasoning?
If that's the case, then if Cowell hadn't entered the... Assuming that what you say is true, Lyney only needed to kidnap the young girl to cause a new
That's right, you tell him! And that... Well, you're Of course I do. You're saying that he wasn't?
Are you sure we don't need to give this more thought? Are you sure we don't need to give this more thought? That's right! Lyney wasn't in the box or in the tunnel. That's why he didn't hear anything strange during the performance. This means that when the crime happened, Lyney had already entered the basement via the vent. The same clue you used to disprove his alibi has now become the best proof! Ha ha! How do you like that?
Well played. To think you'd use such logic. Well then, if it wasn't Lyney who committed the crimes, then who was it?
Could there have been a third The deceased's name is...
Huh? That can't be right. Are you serious? The killer was, in fact, Cowell, the deceased!
Oh, is that so?
What I must do next is recreate the truth. What Cowell did, and how he went from would-be perpetrator No one entered or left the opera house. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel, so there... Lyney was not in the tunnel at that moment. The sound we heard may have come from... It would have been tough for both... The sound we heard may have come from... No one entered or left... It would have been tough for both... The deceased's name is... Halsey's clothing was in the... The sound we heard may have... No one entered or left... Lyney was not in the tunnel at... Lyney was not in the tunnel. It would have been tough for both... The deceased's name is... Halsey's clothing was in... Lyney was not in the tunnel. No one entered or left...
What's wrong, Traveler? Are you still out of...
Look, since we're at a dead end, just like the trick as it transpired,
If only we knew.
Well, that would be nice, but the tunnel... It's not like this is a magic trick where you can just make a real live person...
Excuse me.
If the defense is unable to make further effective arguments, we will move on to the next stage of the trial.
Lyney was not in the tunnel at that moment. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the crypt. The deceased's name is Cowell, Lyney's assistant. It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They would... No one entered or left the opera house. Halsey's clothing was in the... The vase was not broken.
Paimon gets it! Lynette escaped from the water tank, vanishing gradually and leaving only clothes behind. If there's a similar method where a person could be transformed into water...
Just a moment, please. How could a person ever be transformed? Magic tricks are ultimate.
even so, I trust the Traveler's judgment. The truth must be out there somewhere. Perhaps some new line of reasoning may open if we try to gather all the focal points that don't make sense. Since Cal was the deceased, we haven't placed much attention on him. But given that we aren't making much progress with the case, it wouldn't hurt to have a look at his belongings, would it?
People really do come up with all sorts of harebrained schemes when at the end of their rope. The way I see it, your suggestion that we broaden the scope of our investigation is nothing but a tactic for stalling the trial.
Nevertheless, I believe that this is a reasonable request on the part of an attorney. Since the trial does indeed appear to be at an impasse, I believe that additional evidence may help us make more progress. Guards, please step into...
We are still examining the... We discovered several test tubes of fluid with the notebook in his back. The primordial... The note's contents, the notebook has one of these tubes. The notes also stick. As such, we will...
You've gotta be kidding!
But something so...
Wait a moment. This reminds me of a certain...
If people can become water, does that mean that the water tank's real use was as a means to hide water stains? And if Cowell was targeting that girl... Wait just a minute. Could that mean... You two...
Mademoiselle, wait! What about your part?
Let's go. Just...
Order! Order! Still, guards, Mr. Lyney.
Of course. If we uphold this hypothesis...
Right! Like the metal hook! Let's think about this. Cowell's methods must have something to do with that.
The deceased's name is Cowell, Lyney's assistant. Now it seems like the hook rope was... The water from the primordial sea should already have been prepped before Halsey entered the magic box. The rope that held the water tank. Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. I remember there was something else within the inner layer of that box.
It's Ace Detective Paimon's time to shine again! In the original plan, Cowell would tamper with the water tank rope and the number selector securing his target. When the magic box containing Halsey was lowered, the metal hook would retract gradually and pierce the balloon at the top of the box. When the balloon attached to the box popped, the water from the primordial seed inside it would pour down and dissolve Halsey. Afterward, Cowell would enter the tunnel and break the flower vase to conceal the water inside the tunnel, with the remaining evidence being covered up by the water tank on stage. But he encountered something unexpected in the tunnel and wound up being fatally hit by the same water tank he meant to use to cover his tracks.
Huh. That does make sense.
That actually links together a lot of the more confusing pieces.
Oh dear, what do I do? Even I think they sound convincing now. Have I falsely accused an innocent person? What a humiliation.
Now, it seems like the only point of contention remaining is the exact circumstances that led to Cal's death. His notes mentioned he had an accomplice who could be—
On that note, the guards have just contacted me indicating that I shall now invite him on stage to share—
Thank you, Your Honor. We found an identical sample of the water from the
What?
That can't be. Does this, my dear citizens? Lyney did not need to take part in the dissolution of the young woman at all. Indeed, he did leave the scene via the vent, having made modification, but upon his ultimately, he not now as much. Am I right?
We've used up all the... Is this the end of the...
Oh no.
I believe this is indeed... Now then, excuse me,
Miss, I must
Oh, come on. Don't be hasty. I have a good reason for interrupting you. I'll show you an amazing trick. One that can... What in the...
No offense, miss, but miracles...
Come on now, don't be silly. But once everyone believes the illusion, can't magic reveal the truth to them once again? And wouldn't such a come on, but as the magic makers and stars of the
I understand.
And voila.
Sorry for the interruption.
Wait, isn't that Halsey? So the whole thing about people dissolving wasn't true after all?
To be clear, I'm only here because this person told me that if I testified, the merit of doing so would lessen my sentence. I was hiding outside this room listening to the proceedings because I was afraid that I would be the one put on trial. I was just feeling happy that no one had noticed me, and then before I knew it, she caught me.
That'll teach you to...
Where should I begin? Firstly, my name isn't Halsey. It's Lillian, and I'm originally from Mondstadt. I heard that Lyney's show was gonna be a real thriller, but I missed the That's how I make a living. I steal stuff here and there. And I'd never been caught before. But I was noticed at the harbor a few days ago, and I barely got away.
Hey! No wonder you look familiar! So you were the thief! Lyney even mentioned that you were pretty skilled!
Well, and I thought that would have been the end of it, but then the number selector chose me. He even mentioned the Fortress of Meripede. That's a prison, isn't it? So you can imagine how shocked I was. I thought, so I played along with the show while looking for an opening to flee. But then I wasn't going to take that lying down, so I knocked him out and stuffed him into the box. There was nowhere to run from there, though, so I had to change. I slipped out after the first guard arrived at the scene and continued.
Can a person even hide in there?
But I swear, I didn't know that the water tank would fall down. Really, I swear, had I known that, I wouldn't have put him in the magic box. I may be a thief, but I'm no killer.
Well, that makes everything pretty clear now, doesn't it?
This time, we need to... The strange... Seems this won't The flower... Lillian was a...
And it's Ace Detective Pop! Having been selected out of the blue, Lillian panicked. Her panic only intensified after she entered. Hearing the commotion, Cowell leapt it. He did not know that Lillian was not from Fontaine. Mistakenly believing that the water from the primordial... The two broke the flower vase during the struggle with no way of escaping. That she would have to go through guard inspection if she tried to leave after.
She had already become desperately hungry by the time we were chatting over.
At this point, all the events.
So bravo!
Now then, Lady Farina, do you wish to speak against the defense's... Please answer the question, Lady Farina. Also, if I may add, the trial has not yet ended. As such, I request that the prosecution not leave the room before the proceedings have concluded.
What? Are you reading my mind now? No, I have no further arguments. I admit defeat. But really, could you at least have left me with some dignity?
Wow, look at that!
If there are no objections, then as the Chief Justice of Fontaine, I shall once again repeat the full sequence of events. The actual perpetrator of the serial disappearances, Cowell, selected his next victim from the audience reservation list. With some modifications to the selector, he could ensure that the pre-selected young woman would be chosen. To cover up any evidence while committing the deed, Cowell thought of allowing the water tank to fall, which would conceal the water left behind after the young woman was dissolved. He also tampered with the rope suspending the water tank, using the fireworks at the end of the performance to cause the tank to drop and hide the watermarks. He poured the water from the primordial sea into a balloon during the preparation of the magic box and stuck it to the box's lid. Finally, he passed the prepared hook on a rope through the gap in the magic box's door when bringing the young woman to said box. When the magic trick officially began, the box containing the woman was lowered into the tunnel, tightening the hook rope and bursting the balloon containing the water. If all had gone to plan, the young woman would be dissolved at this time. However, Lillian was not. Realizing that there was trouble, Cowell entered the tunnel and met Lillian, thinking that the waters had not yet taken effect. However, his opponent was more capable than he thought, and he was overcome, knocked unconscious, and placed into the magic box, and thus became his own final victim. Lillian, according to her own statements, then changed clothes and hid until the performance ended, before hiding in other parts of the opera house. As for Lyney, he was in the underground structures within the opera house, and was thus ignorant of these happenings. From this reconstruction of events, while there is much in Lyney, and this case at least, can... As such, Lyney and Lynette are officially declared not guilty.
Great work, partners.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Next, I think we deserve an explanation, Guard, for how did you find the water from the primordial...
Right! Your discovery caused me to make a serious mistake.
I suspect that the accomplice mentioned in Cowell's notes was not Lyney, but you, yes? I'm sure you know what you must do to lessen your sentence.
Speak quickly! Unless you want to earn yourself a one-way ticket to Coupon Town.
I was just following orders. We were supposed to place blame for the serial disappearances onto Lyney, and thus cause suspicion to fall on the Fatui. The higher-ups said this was the best opportunity to...
And now that your plan has fallen through, and the secrets of the water have been... Therefore, you would be wise to tell every...
Yes! Our boss. It can also be... We've been in this...
And now he can no longer talk.
Such ruthlessness.
An outrageous act. All present, please submit to inspection immediately.
So, we're just going back now? That's...
Traveler, Paimon! Please wait.
Lyney...
I know you may not want to speak to me right now, but still. Let me thank you, I guess. But regardless, I didn't approach you with any ulterior motives or ill intent. I've spoken to you as myself, just plain Lyney. As for why I'm a Fatus, it's because the goals of the House of the Hearth align. That was how Father, who you might know as the Knave, approached recruiting us back.
The Knave? The one who controls the House of the Hearth? She's your father?
That's right. And since we're here, back when our parents first died, to survive, I took my sister through several streets. To my surprise, before long...
So you went from
That was how we felt, but he would
That doesn't seem...
After I waited alone. The answer he gave...
Oh no.
As far as outsiders are concerned, I managed to... All I saw was...
So...
That's right. Father, the House of the Heart... I was hesitant, but she was also...
Oh... So that's how...
She has gained permission...
So...
That's right. Today's case has everyone at Hotel to us orphans.
So... From small
It's all right. I just hope you can... If you should need anything at all in the future...